Welcome to a very sunny escape to the country. Now today I'm in the middle of an English town that was the first to permanently light its streets using the new power of electricity. But how and where? Well, join me in just a moment and I'll tell you. Today's buyers may be retiring, but they're looking to significantly upsize to a new home in the country. But from the beginning, there's a bit of a struggle with expectation.
I'm just a little worried at the moment it might be a bit small.
A bit small?
A bit small.
Really?
Yeah.
But as the search progresses, things begin to look up.
I think the biggest fireplace I've ever seen. Let me climb in.
It's enormous, isn't it? Today we are in Taunton, Somerset, a town famous for, amongst other things, its streetlights. Now, during the 1880s, in a handful of towns and cities across the UK, there was something of a race on who could be the first to permanently light their streets using the emerging power of electricity. Well, here in Taunton, a local businessman, H.G. Massingham, using his own money, rose to the challenge. He got hold of 7 Thomson-Houston arc lamps, attached them to a generator, strung them up on lampposts and set to work. By 1886, his trial had proved to be a resounding success, and as a result, Taunton was the first town in England to be permanently lit by electricity. Somerset lies in the southwest of England and is bordered by Wiltshire to the east and Devon and Dorset to the south. The county was known by the Anglo-Saxons as the land of the summer people, and with its impressive agricultural vistas, it's a name that still resonates today. Rising up out of the fertile farmland is the mystical mound of Glastonbury Tor, a place of both pagan and Christian worship and thought by some to be the legendary burial site of King Arthur. In northeast Somerset, the UNESCO World Heritage City of Bath grew up around another of the county's most celebrated sites. Natural thermal springs, which were revered by the Celts, the Romans and more recently 18th century aristocrats, who were responsible for the city's graceful Georgian architecture. But there's a raw and rugged beauty here too, which is perhaps most dramatically expressed at Cheddar Gorge, where craggy limestone cliffs tower 500 feet and form yet another of this unique county's evocative landmarks. Now, as one of southern England's larger counties, Somerset is also one of its most rural, with a significantly lower density of population here than the national average. So if you want a bit of peace and quiet and somewhere to get away from it all, then this part of the country is a pretty good bet. And when it comes to property prices, well, there's even more to smile about. The cost of your average detached house here is currently £271,000. Now, although that is a couple of thousand above the national figure, it does make Somerset significantly cheaper than its neighbouring southwest hotspots such as Devon and Dorset. So let's meet today's buyers and find out why they want to move here. In stark contrast to Somerset's tranquil rural landscape is the Oval in South London, which is where David and Colin currently call home. They moved in here 4 years ago after their relationship was cemented by a rather ambitious road trip instigated by David, who for 25 years owned his own adventure travel company.
I had a car out in Kathmandu, and the time had come to bring it back to England. And so we spent 3.5 months driving from Kathmandu back to London.
It's one of those types of trips where it will either make or break a relationship. And fortunately, we survived the trip.
As well as being an intrepid traveller, David is quite a collector. Wine and vintage maps and atlases are his main focus, but recently he's rekindled a passion for a slightly less conveniently sized collectible.
I first discovered player pianos when I was at school, and I found it fascinating that you could just make music by pedalling away with the paper roll going around. I've recently acquired a grand player piano, and I've just bought an organ, and I'm about to acquire another player piano, and there simply isn't room here for all these pianos.
Like David, Colin is now retired. He used to work in the export shipping industry and spent 10 years in the Territorial Army. But he's hoping a quiet country existence will allow him more time to pursue some other interests.
I'd like to return to finish the degree which I started quite a few years back. And I'd certainly like to take up a little bit more walking because we don't exercise as much as we need to.
As well as long walks and law degree studies, Colin is going to find himself busy in the garden because David has lined up some large-scale landscaping plans.
My garden at the moment is probably one of the smallest in London, so there is extremely limited scope for doing anything. And I've been on several, and led, in fact, several botanical expeditions. So I've learnt a lot about plants in my travels, and I want to put some of that into practice.
They may have some big plans envisaged with this rural move, but it's the little things that are drawing them the most.
It's just having birds around, singing, and there's a smell in the countryside as well that you just don't get in a city.
For me, I suppose not having to rush around all of the time.
I don't know why you think you're going to be able to slow down.
David and Colin are happy to look at properties anywhere within Somerset's borders. But before we kick off our county-wide search, I'm meeting up with them to hear more about their planned move.
Well, Colin, David, welcome to Somerset. You have a wonderful collection of interests that you need to cram into this new home of yours. Amongst them, a collection of pianos.
Yes, strictly speaking, player pianos. So we need lots of space for those.
And I gather plans for a snooker table.
Yes, David's got an interest in having a full-size snooker table, hence the need for quite large rooms.
And I gather a wine cellar too.
I have a large collection of wine, and if there isn't a cellar, then we'll probably have to dig one.
Now, give us an idea of bedrooms, because certainly what we're describing on the ground floor is going to have to be quite big.
We're looking at a minimum of 5 bedrooms. Whilst there's only the 2 of us, there is an extended family that needs to be accommodated.
So, stylistically then, Colin, what would your ideal home look like and comprise?
Ideally, it would be Georgian, Victorian, quite large land, as well as possibly water features if they happen to be there.
Now, I know that outside space is really going to define this new home because you're a passionate gardener, David.
Yes, so we need a big garden, at least a couple of acres.
How much are you planning to spend?
For the right property, you could probably push it up to just below £1 million.
Wow. Did you ever think you'd be house hunting with £1 million
No.
in your pocket? So let's go and spend some money.
With a very generous maximum budget of £1 million, David and Colin are hoping to find a large detached period house with a minimum of 5 bedrooms. At least 3 spacious reception rooms to house a snooker table and the pianos, and a cellar would be a bonus. To fulfil David's gardening ambitions, they'd like a large garden, ideally with an acre or 2 of land and some kind of water feature. We've got a superb selection of Somerset homes to show David and Colin, but I'll keep them guessing about the price until we've had a good look around first. We'll finish with the mystery house, which isn't exactly what they asked for, but does come with a couple of unexpected outdoor features that I'm hoping will pleasantly surprise them.
Now, David, I gather you grew up with a taste of the country.
I did indeed. I was brought up in Surrey. The Ash Ranges were just behind the house, and as a child we just used to rampage all over the ranges.
So now you're hoping to rampage through Somerset.
Yes, it's not quite the same sort of terrain, but...
And Colin, what experience have you got of country life?
Country life, nothing. I have never lived in the country at all, so I'm going to have to learn a whole new way of life.
Our search begins in the hamlet of East Compton in the Mendips, on the edge of the Somerset levels. There are handy amenities less than 2 miles away in the village of Pilton. For most of the year, there's a gentle pace and peaceful ambience here, but for a few days in early summer, as many as 180,000 revellers are drawn to the village for the world-famous Glastonbury Music Festival, which has been held on a farm just outside Pilton since the early 1970s. Our first offering is just a few minutes' drive away, and if Colin and David choose to buy it, they qualify for free festival tickets for as long as they lived here.
Here we are, property number 1. What do you think, Colin?
Very nice. It's quite a substantial looking building.
It's definitely a step up from where you are at the moment.
It definitely is. It definitely is.
In the
That's
middle
an
of London.
understatement.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you wanted a sense of Georgian and those Georgian proportions.
It's got lovely big windows, so I think it's going to be really light inside.
Come on,
Right.
let's see what you think.
OK.
This sizable Georgian home, which was originally a farmhouse, is Grade 2 listed and has recently been fully renovated.
Let's start with this. One of your reception rooms. What do you think?
Oh, it's a very pleasant, what I call a cosy room.
Yeah.
I think it could make a very nice study.
It could make a lovely study, although you have another room next door, which is currently the study, which is not short on space either.
Right.
And the kitchen diner is through here. Look at these gorgeous floors.
Yes, wow, those are flagstones and a half. I don't think I've ever seen such a big flagstone as that. Yeah, this is a nice space.
Our table would certainly fit in here.
Yes.
Come and have a look at the rest of it. The kitchen, nice contemporary feel, dominated obviously by the huge island there.
And lots of storage.
Well, through there you've got an enormous utility room. And then through that door there is the other further living room, which they've currently got as a media room. But maybe that's your music room, I don't know.
Could be, could be.
So what do we think so far of property number 1?
So far, so good. So good. We do need the snooker room, though, so that's a bit of a crucial point.
Well, there is one other element that I know is as important as the snooker room, and that is the wine cellar. Look at this,
Good.
a gorgeous cellar for you. Big enough?
That's definitely big enough. And it feels like the perfect temperature.
Also on the ground floor, coming off the main part of the house that we've just seen, is a completely self-contained annex. It's linked to the house by an attractive garden room and has its own kitchen, living room, bathroom and 2 bedrooms. Upstairs there are 6 double bedrooms, that's 1 more than they asked for. 1 is currently being used as a study and 2 of them have en suites, 1 with a shower and the other with a roll-top bath.
Well, we've saved this one until last because the owners currently use it as their master bedroom. It doesn't have an ensuite, but what it does have is over the landing is a separate bathroom.
Right.
Is this a house that you feel comfortable in?
Oh, I definitely feel comfortable in it, yes. Yes, I'm just a little worried at the moment it might be a bit small.
A bit small?
A bit small.
Really?
Yeah.
Small is one word I wouldn't use to describe this property, and there is more space to it. On the floor above, there are 2 large attic rooms that could be converted into living areas. And I'm hoping there's enough to inspire Chief Gardener David outside, where there's a large lawned area, mature shrubs and trees, and a beautiful apple orchard that runs alongside the sweeping private driveway.
All in all, you've got 3 acres, so hopefully a fair amount of scope for your gardening
Indeed.
ambitions.
And in the meantime, there's lots of apples.
There's lots of apples, lots of cider to be had. It also has this, the old piggery. Now, planning has been granted on that in the past. If you could develop that a little further, who knows, maybe it could become a dedicated games room in its own right.
Yes, yes,
for
it
the
looks as though it
snooker
could be big enough.
But what do we think property number 1 is on the market for? Who's going to go first?
I'll go first. I'm going to go at 825.
David?
I'm going to go a bit lower at 800,000.
Well, there is, I'm afraid, no easy way to say this. It's on the market for $1 million.
A million.
$1 million. $1 million, because it is, I think, still a big property. And Glastonbury is a real hotspot.
Is it?
Yeah.
That we didn't know,
Yeah.
certainly.
Well, look, go and have a good look around, and I will catch up with you a little bit later on.
OK.
Right at the top of their maximum budget, this grand Grade 2 listed Georgian home may not have a full-size snooker table room, but it does have plenty of space for a player piano in one of the 3 generous reception rooms. It has a large cellar for David's wine collection, and in the main part of the house there are 6 bedrooms with 2 more in the annex. And outside there are 3 acres of land, which includes that wonderful orchard.
The primary concern which I have is the fact that we're going to have to make modifications to introduce the snooker room.
There is, of course, the wine cellar, which is definitely a bonus. Plenty of room for my wine there, but I'm not sure that would be enough to actually swing us to go for this house.
Wow, what a beautiful day looking at beautiful houses.
We're very, very lucky.
Well, let's see what you think of the next one, but in the meantime, maybe a spot of lunch. Come on.
OK.
OK.
In the Quantock Hills, not far from the county town of Taunton, sits the imposing Hestercombe House. It was once home to generations of 2 successive families, who between them created an extraordinary 50-acre garden, which uniquely encompasses 3 centuries of distinct garden design. For years, the garden was in a state of complete disrepair, but since the 1970s, when an ambitious restoration plan was launched, it's slowly been returned to its former glory. Today, the grounds are cared for by the Hestercombe Garden Trust, whose head gardener is Claire Reed. Colin and passionate plantsman David are joining Claire in the oldest section of the grounds, which is Georgian and is known as the landscape garden.
The idea of this part of the garden is that it's imitating the landscape art movement of the same era. So every building and every folly around the garden has a sort of frame so that you're looking out onto something. So in this case, we're looking out onto the Great Cascade here. So it's like a living painting, if you like.
The garden was designed in the 1750s by Coppleston Ward Bamfield, who was a descendant of the first family that owned Hestercombe.
Bamfield was a great watercolourist, so we actually have a painting of this viewpoint. We knew exactly what the bend and the curve of the stream should be, so we've been able to replicate his vision.
And it's spectacularly beautiful, it really is.
In 1873, Hestercombe was bought by the Portman family, who took up where Bamfield left off, creating what is known as the Victorian Terrace. Its formal bedding scheme is typical of its era and is vastly different from the garden it overlooks, which was built by a later generation during the Edwardian period.
So this is the Edwardian garden, and it was commissioned by the Portman family. They chose to use Edwin Lutyens, who does the hard landscaping, and Gertrude Jekyll, who's the plantswoman. And they were like the most popular kind of garden designers of the time. So if you could get them, you were quite elite.
They were also perhaps the most famous partnership in English garden history and created several gardens together, but their collaboration at Hestercombe is regarded by many as their finest. Both were highly influential figures in the arts and crafts movement and were instrumental in moving landscape design beyond the Victorian era's very formal approach with a more flowing, naturalistic style.
We were lucky enough as well that we found Jekyll's original plans in a dusty old drawer, so we were able to work from those. So the planting that you see here in the garden today is as much as possible exactly as it would have been back when she designed it.
Claire, who heads up a team of 5 full-time gardeners, is taking advantage of having a couple of extra hands on deck.
So these are, they're called argyratum, or floss flower, often known as. They're desperate to come out by now.
They are.
We'll get them all in and then we'll get them all watered at the end.
Yes. I'm wondering what these very big yellow-flowered plants are.
This is a vibascum. It's a type of mullein that you see growing wild.
And is that the sort of thing that I could grow in my garden quite easily? They're
definitely.
easy to grow?
They like the climate in Somerset. They like the sort of damp and the mild that we have down here.
Now that David and Colin are fired up with design inspiration for their future landscaping project, we ought to return to finding them the perfect place to realise it. For the second stop on our search, we journey 28 miles west to the village of Enmore, which lies at the foot of the Quantock Hills. The first place in England to be designated an area of outstanding natural beauty. The village has 2 decent pubs, its own well-regarded championship golf course, and the school here, which was founded in 1810, is believed to have been the first free school in the country. Just on the outskirts of the village, at the end of a wonderfully private driveway, is our second property, a converted farm building.
Well, lads, I think property number 2 really is all about setting. I mean, look at that. You wanted a water feature, Colin?
Yes, we certainly got the water feature and a stream leading down into it.
You have indeed. Now, let's focus on the property. There you are.
It has got a stunning presence.
Now, it used to be a piggery.
Really?
Yeah.
I would never have guessed.
No. Is it a wow in your book yet?
It is, I think it is. From this side, it is definitely a wow.
Come and have a look inside. Let's see what it offers you.
This converted pig barn, which is made of local Quantock stone, is thought to be just over 100 years old and was converted in the mid-1990s.
Come on in.
Thank you.
What do we think of all this, then?
Oh, double height. Very nice.
Yeah. Let's start in here. Well, fellas, what about this, then?
This is nice.
This is a big kitchen. And then you've got the doors to the patio outside.
Yeah.
So it's straight out into the garden, which is much more natural to me.
Again, another lovely large central island, lots of built-in storage.
It is very well done.
So far, so good.
So far, so good. Right, let's go through to the living room. Have a look at this. There.
This is a really nice room with I think the biggest fireplace I've ever seen. Let me climb in.
It's enormous, isn't it?
It is.
This is impressive.
It's huge.
Look at your face, Colin. It's brilliant. I mean, the whole thing is designed to really make the best of the main event, which is obviously the view and the lake.
Over there, yes.
And the gardens.
Yeah.
I think we could see your baby grand over in that corner.
Yes, could be.
Yes, potential space for one of the others through into the next room.
Yes, through those double doors, you've got a room about half the size of this.
Right.
Perhaps a little more informal, more of a snug.
This certainly works for me as a living room.
Yeah. It does.
Well, a great reaction so far. I think the layout of this place really seems to suit our buyers. Upstairs doesn't have the 5 bedrooms they've requested, but there is a way around that, which we'll investigate a little bit later. At the top of the stairs, the galleried landing opens out onto a wonderful little balcony. Then, off one side of the landing, there's a family shower room and 2 of the 4 bedrooms, which are both of a decent size. On the other side of the landing, there's another bedroom that has an ensuite bathroom.
And then this is the master, and this is the master bedroom's ensuite.
Well, très élégant. Very grand. Yes. It's good fun. It's positively decadent.
And the bedroom itself is here.
It's a nice size.
And its dual aspect, which is always good.
And I think, compared to what we showed you in our first property, I think this as a master suite definitely works much more.
This works a lot
absolutely,
better.
yes.
I'm wondering if the appeal of this place has distracted them from the fact that there isn't yet a snooker room in here. However, outside, across the car parking area, there's a second barn that was converted in 2006 as a dedicated entertainment zone.
Well, boys.
Now this answers the question at the snooker table. There is a games room.
How about it? And behind that screen is a kind of gym area, but to be honest, you could have more pianos, I suppose.
You could.
Now, we haven't got you the wine cellar here, but we have got you the bar.
Yes.
So,
yes, very welcome.
It's all a bit of give and take, isn't it? And above us is a dedicated media room with a projector and a screen and all the rest of it. Now, you have only got 4 bedrooms next door.
Yes.
You could, in theory, convert that into a guest suite, because there is also, in there, a loo.
Right.
So all the plumbing is here. You could slot an ensuite in up there.
Yeah.
Plenty of options here.
Yeah.
Well, there is just one more thing to tackle, and that is the sticky issue of price.
Right.
Yes? Let's go down to the lake. Come on.
Okay.
The land that comes with this property, I think, is exceptional. As well as the beautifully landscaped garden, there's a large orchard which I'm told in early spring is ablaze with daffodils. And behind the house, there's a meadow with some mature trees, and of course, there's that stunning pond, which has a wonderful summer house perched at its edge.
Isn't this just beautiful?
It is. It's a lovely, lovely view.
Now, in terms of land, in all, it's about 5 acres.
5 acres.
That's a nice chunk of land.
It's a great chunk of land.
Yeah.
Plenty of scope for you, David.
Plenty of scope.
Absolutely. But what's it worth, David?
I'm going to guess 850,000.
850?
I think this is nearer the top end of our budget, around about the 900 mark.
900. This is on the market now for £895,000.
Certainly gives us something to think about.
It certainly does. What a place. I mean, it does have a lot to go going for it.
£105,000 below David and Colin's maximum budget, this beautifully converted farm building has a generous kitchen diner and an impressive living room, large enough to take at least one of David's player pianos. Upstairs, there are only 4 bedrooms, but there is scope for a 5th in the large converted outbuilding, where there's also that all-important snooker room. There isn't an existing cellar, but there's plenty of scope to create one in the gorgeous 5-acre grounds.
The house is really, really nice. It's in a lovely setting. It's a little smaller than we would like, but on the other hand, the living room is big enough to take the grand piano, and the kitchen dining room works very well. Very extensive pergola, lots of things we can do with that. And it's very well sheltered, so I think we could grow tender plants here.
So a bit of tidying up for you to do.
A bit of tidying up for you to do, yes.
I thought you'd say that.
Yeah.
It's certainly a contender, and it's certainly given me food for thought. Now we need to answer the question, is this a pond or is this a lake?
That is a good one. My guess is that if you're able to row around it, it's probably a lake, albeit a small one.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
It's been a good day. Come on, let's go and get a cold beer.
Let's go.
It's the last leg of our house search in Somerset, and with a very healthy budget of £1 million, retired buyers Colin and David are hoping to swap their South London terrace for a much larger home in the country. Still to come, there's a surprise or two hidden in the garden of the mystery house.
The mind is boggling slightly.
And I unleash my creative side on a block of Western Bay sand.
It's organic.
It's very organic.
Well, our final day of house hunting here in Somerset with David and with Colin is set to be yet another gorgeous, scorching day. But I do have a doubt in the back of my mind. Despite the fact that they are radically upsizing from their current home in London, both of our beautiful properties that they've seen so far do, they say, appear to be somewhat on the small side, despite their very generous budget. So what can we do for our final offering, our mystery house? Well, predictably, for the money, it is absolutely beautiful. But is it going to be big enough? Well, it might be, because this is one in which both of our boys really could become lords of the manor.
For our final destination, we're travelling 10 miles northeast to reach the picturesque village of Cossington, which is situated on the northern slopes of the Polden Hills and is thought to have once been part of the ancient Polden estate of Glastonbury Abbey. The village has a recently built hall, a popular pub and a 13th century church which houses commemorations to 2 parishioners who during the 16th century were Lord and Lady of a manor that stood right next door to the church. And that manor house, which was rebuilt in later years, just happens to be our mystery house.
This is amazing.
I think that's a pretty nice mystery house.
So why is it our mystery house? Well, technically, it's a semi.
Right?
Yes.
But you get the lion's share of this beautiful manor house. Everything from those first bay windows to our right
Around
here.
Right.
It's a stunning building. It's absolutely gorgeous.
And the roses and the wisteria and the other plants really make it look even better. OK, it's a semi, but I think we can, as I said, I think we can live with that.
It's a semi with 6 bedrooms.
The house dates from around 1840, so it's early Victorian, but there's been a building here since the 11th century, and the site is thought to have been a meeting place for the abbots of Glastonbury.
Well, how about this for making a statement in an entrance?
This is amazing.
That is a very grand entrance hall.
Isn't it? They've got it as a dining area at the moment. But would your mini grand fit in here?
It would fit in here, but it might be a better place for an upright.
So we've housed maybe one instrument.
We've definitely housed one instrument.
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Let's see if the mini grand will go in
there.
here.
Ah, just like that one.
Like that one, yeah. But we have also measured this in terms of your snooker table.
Right.
Now, we think, in terms of size, for the table and the room around it to play,
Right.
you need about 22 by 16 feet.
That's right.
Correct.
This room is 25 by 18. So you
That
could
should work, yeah.
have your snooker table in here.
I'm pretty sure that will work.
And it leads us on nicely to the kitchen, which is through here. There we are, chaps.
Another island.
Another island, yeah. Not the biggest one we've been able to show you in terms of it's not a kitchen diner.
No, I think this kitchen would work fine for us, actually.
Let's continue across the hallway into the living room. So this is the main formal living room at the moment, I suppose. Could we fit an instrument in here?
Yes, I'm quite sure we can. The baby grand actually would go well against that wall, and that would release the space in the other living room for snooker.
Yes! Hey! Excellent, it's all coming together, right.
Yeah.
Let's go through to the garden room. A very hot garden room today.
Yes, it's quite a grand conservatory.
But I'm wondering if this would also act as your dining room, maybe?
That certainly would be an option.
Yeah, I would very much like eating in here.
Right, let's get out of this heat and continue.
There are 2 more floors to this property, and we're going to take a look at the first floor, where there's a shower room and 3 bedrooms. The smallest of the 3 has bespoke, built-in storage, and there's a really generous double that's currently being used as a study and has a beautiful bay window that looks out over the church. The 3rd bedroom is also a good size.
Now, usually we're coming into the master bedroom via its ensuite. Shower and bath in there, whirlpool bath as well. And then this is the main bedroom.
Very nice.
Nice
Very
size.
nice, yeah. Yeah, this is a lovely room.
On the floor above this one, there are another 3 bedrooms, making a total of 6. All of them have generous dimensions and are flooded with light. There's also a family bathroom and yet another reception room, which could be the perfect spot to house David's map collection.
There.
There.
This is nice.
There is the formal garden, yes.
Outside, the garden has been kept in immaculate condition by the current owners, who over the years have hosted regular music and theatre events here, using a charming outdoor stage.
Now, look at this. Yeah.
Oh, no.
You got a pool. How about that?
It goes on giving. This is totally unexpected.
And I thought this was going to be a vegetable garden.
But there is one. It's alongside the tennis court, which is just over there.
What?
Yeah, tennis court's right there.
The mind is boggling slightly.
So this is a garden that does keep giving, you're right.
It does keep giving. It's fantastic.
Right. What's our mystery house on the market for then, Colin?
I'm thinking it's at least going to be 900,000, but it wouldn't surprise me if it's more.
David?
Well, this time I'm going above Colin. I reckon it's very close to our max. So I'm going to say 990.
990. Nearly a million, you say.
Nearly a million.
This is on the market for £895,000.
That's surprising.
That makes it very tempting.
I should think it does. Go and explore at your leisure. There's a lot to take in with this one, and I will find you a little bit later on.
Okay.
Off you go. Have a wander down that lovely,
All right.
scented path.
This beautiful historic manor house is also £105,000 below David and Colin's top budget. And despite being semi-detached, it offers plenty of space, including 4 large reception rooms, a grand entrance hall and 6 bedrooms, so there's more than enough room for their pianos, maps, snooker table and visiting family. Outside in the exquisite 1-acre garden, there's a tennis court, a swimming pool and a stage where one of David's pianos could be set up for summertime musical soirees.
If you'd given me the specification on paper, I would probably have said no, but having seen it, it is definitely a contender. It's not quite what we've been looking for in that it's semi-detached, but really you would hardly notice that.
It's got a lovely flow, moving in from room to room. Another bedroom.
Yet another bedroom.
Another bathroom.
This is a TARDIS house.
It's
It just goes on and on and on. We could live here, no doubt about that.
How are we doing, chaps?
We're doing very well, thank you.
typical finding you on the stage.
I couldn't resist it. I've never acted in my life, would you believe it? So it was worth the try. But I suppose the burning question is our mystery house to be or not to be?
That is the question.
That is a very good question. We've spoiled you with 3 fabulous properties this week. So let's go and give them their due consideration, shall we?
Yep.
Come on.
Okay.
Along Somerset's superb coastline are a string of sandy beaches. One of the most popular is at Weston-super-Mare, which by the Edwardian period had evolved from a fishing village into one of the West Country's most booming beach resorts. It still offers the classic seaside attractions, but in the last 8 years, thanks to the special properties of the Western Bay sand, it's added another reason for beachgoers to flock here, an international sand sculpting festival. And Nicola Wood is the festival's chief organiser.
What is it about the sand here at Weston that makes it usable for these beautiful creations?
A few things, really. It's got just the right consistency. There's just the right amount of silt and mud and dirt in there to help bind it together. The shape of the grain has still got straight edges, despite the fact that it's washed back and forth by the tide. So that makes it stronger because the grains can tessellate, they can click together, and when you compact it, it makes a very dense structure.
Now, many people will think there must be something under the sand that's doing the work of actually holding the whole thing together, but no.
Yeah, that is a common misconception. We have people think that there's framework or even that we mix cement in with it, but it's not true. It really is just sand and water.
Now, they do look quite fragile. How robust are these things?
They are surprisingly strong, actually. In fact, you could drive a car into them and you'd do more damage to the car.
Aside from having the right kind of sand, what makes these sculptures so deceptively strong is the preparation. A lot of water is added to the sand to make the grains stick together, and then it's firmly tamped down either by hand or, for larger sculptures, by machine, creating what is in essence a soft sandstone. The granules are so tightly packed that the sculptures can withstand the elements to a certain extent, but throughout the season, sculptors are on hand every day to do any necessary repairs. Today, Adam Dunmore is working on a representation of the classic Aesop fable, The Lion and the Mouse.
You seem like a rather elaborate makeup artist. We're just looking at some of the tools you've got down here.
Yeah, I don't like to think of it that way, but yeah, it does look a bit guilty when I've got a feather duster.
And paintbrushes and the classic trowel.
Yeah, the trowel is probably the most commonly used tool in the bag. And we need a lot of water as well on hot days like this. The sand is very hard, so we have to wet the surface before we can repair anything.
Each year, a different theme is chosen, and with this season being Once Upon a Time, Nicola's recruited me to help make Cinderella's pumpkin.
There we are. It's organic.
It's very organic. Now what we need to do is take away any sand that's not pumpkin, really. So following the lines that you've created, we can just slice away.
Since it began in 2006, the festival has grown from strength to strength.
OK, brilliant. Now we need to do exactly the same again from the other side.
It started out using 30 tons of sand, but now more than 5,000 are required, which is bulldozed from further down the beach.
We can rub out some of these lumps and bumps, make it nice and smooth. OK, we'll borrow Adam's makeup brush and just give it a little bit of a dust off, get rid of all those crumbs.
Oh, it's filthy, this pumpkin. Look at the state of it.
If we cut away a V down each groove like that,
Yeah.
and then we can round it into itself. Sand sculpting is not just about taking sand away, we can also add sand to it, and that's how we'll do the stalk.
Details, like the stalk for this pumpkin, are created by adding layers of very wet sand.
One more.
They form a structure that can then be moulded into the desired shape.
Congratulations, Jules, your first sand sculpture.
Well, I am delighted that it's turned out, if I might say, so well,
Very
actually.
good.
So Cinderella now has her pumpkin bag.
Yep, she can finally go to the ball.
Do you think I'll get to go as well?
Oh, definitely.
Thank you very much. Somerset, sunshine and 3 sumptuous properties to choose from, but which one, if any, are Colin and David going to go for? Let's be honest, any one of them would suit most of us, and as challenges go, they might think it's a tough decision, but it's quite a nice one to have to make. How are we then?
We're very well, thank you.
Wow, this is a nice treat, isn't it? A cream tea, glorious sunshine.
Yep.
So where are we at the moment then?
Well, the first house was a nice house, but somehow the layout didn't really work for me.
Well, then we took you to property 2, that fabulous converted piggery.
The grounds and the lake, they were just right.
Given that it was a conversion, it really worked for me.
And then this morning we set out to our wonderful mystery house, our 6-bedroom semi, with a stunning garden once again, but also with the added bonus of a pool and a tennis court thrown in.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a big surprise. And the house really worked. I think the benefit of having the second floor, plus a room which is big enough for the snooker table, really made it for us. We have to give that house serious consideration.
The rooms were spacious, nice heights, nice features.
So the mystery house is your favourite. You're going to go back and have another look at it.
I'm pretty sure we're going to go and have another look, and we'll let you know what happens.
Well, here's to you. And in the meantime, look, you can enjoy our cream tea.
Wonderful.
Why
Thank
not?
you.
There we go. Well, folks, the show is pretty much over. And look at this. This year's hay crop cut, drying out in this beautiful weather, ready to be baled. The farming year is moving on, and so too, hopefully, will Colin and David. And when eventually they do find their new home, well, they should have a bottle or two of wine on hand with which to celebrate. I'll see you next time.
David and Colin returned to the mystery house, but after a lot of thought, had an offer accepted on another property that they'd viewed. If you would like to escape to the country in Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland, England, or perhaps even further afield to the continent and would like our help, then please apply online at bbc.co.uk/Be On A Show.